But you're just coming back from Iowa City earlier today.
Yes.
Earlier today, out at an event. How was that?
Look, we've been all over the state. And one of the things I love about this state is that people are always ready to have an open conversation. And that's why Iowa goes first. I'm not a politician. I came from the world of business. But now in the world of politics, I understand why Iowa goes first. There's no TV screens in the room. There's no social media algorithms in the air. And I think that that's something that allows us to have honest conversations. And I think that's how we get our country back. All of us starting to speak the truth in the open. There's a culture of fear in this country where people are afraid of saying the wrong thing for fear of losing their job or having their kids get a bad grade in school or becoming an outcast in their community. And I think that culture of fear is un-American. It's time for us to all start talking openly again. And that's what this caucus process has really been about for me and for this campaign. And so we're having a lot of fun doing it. And I think that it's what our country actually should have been founded on or should be founded on. And I think will be again.
What have people been letting you know after each round of debates? The last one here in Miami, I
Yeah.
think I saw. I believe it was down in Miami. Was it TikTok where you were learning how to waveboard or whatever off
Yes.
the back of the boat? I'd seen that too. So you're obviously trying to reach younger generations. Yeah. Is that where you see you can try to thread the needle here in Iowa, but in other primaries going around the country too, to try to get the youth more involved in the primary process?
Yes, and I think that's something that's going to be a requirement for the Republican Party. Nobody in the Republican Party has really reached young voters, college students and otherwise, in the way that we have in this campaign. I mean, I've gone to Iowa State, University of Iowa campus, Drake. We've been to fraternities where they organize events for us. And one of the interesting things is, at those events, the questions that I get from young people isn't always about politics. Got questions like, how do you succeed? What advice would you give me if I'm looking to make a difference in this country? That gives me hope. And I think that one of the failures of our party, the Republican Party, I think, is we've been very good at pointing out the problems of the left, and that's important. But we have to offer an alternative vision of our own, right? And so if the left is feeding to young people race, gender, sexuality, climate, I want us talking more about the individual, family, nation, God. That beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to actually stand for something. That's something I don't think the Republican Party has done as good of a job of as we could. And I do think it's going to take a new leader from the outside, not somebody who's been a politician. I think someone from the next generation to reach the next generation. Part of what young people are hungry for is authenticity. Show up. What I tell them is you don't have to agree with 100% of what I say, but I'm going to tell you what I believe 100% of the time. How's that for a deal? And young people, I think, appreciate that. And so I do think that many of the poll numbers or otherwise, they don't talk to young people because they haven't participated in Republican politics much in the past. That is where a lot of our support will come from. It's already coming from. And so I think that's going to set us up to have one of our, I would say, secret ingredients to success in delivering a surprise here.
I've been doing so many different campaign type of events, and I would say you have the most college-age students. I would say
Absolutely.
the most college-age people coming, curious, reaching out. Going back to 2008 here, so this recent Des Moines Register NBC poll, the pollster, and I was talking to her about it. Hey, what's like a comeback to the former president Donald Trump with the percentage lead he has in the polls? Like, what's some context they can give me?
Yeah.
She mentioned Obama in 2008, Hillary Clinton with the lead. 58% of Iowa caucus goers in the Democratic Party that day were new. So is that part of your goal? You're trying to get all these college kids to participate for the first time in the caucus this year?
Yes, I think we will have an ability to bring an unpredicted number of new people into the caucus. Combine that with many of the traditional caucus goers. That's how we actually, I think, deliver major success, certainly significantly exceeding expectations here. That'll propel us to success. You know, a lot of other candidates compete with their super PACs buying up lots of ad time or otherwise. We're doing this bottom up. We're going to host, I think, 200 events between now and the Iowa caucus. We're sitting here in mid-November. Between now and mid-January. That's how we're going to do this, is bottom-up, grassroots activation, open dialogue, telling people, and not just young people of every age, people who have, I think, been hungering for a Republican Party that stands for actual shared values that this country was founded on, rather than just criticizing Biden. That's the easy part. The harder part is standing for our own values. That's, I think, something that I'm doing uniquely in this campaign. I'm the only candidate in the Republican Party that has made it a priority to keep us out of World War III. It's another topic that I think is increasingly important in this race. A real divide in the Republican Party. Some people believe it's the job of the U.S. to be the global policeman. Well, as a relatively young person, I can say that It was people my age and younger who we sent to go die in Iraq and Afghanistan by the thousands. $7 trillion of our national debt right now attributable to those two wars. And so yes, I do think it takes somebody coming from the outside, from the next generation, to move the Republican Party to really be a party of the future, rather than going back to the Republican Party of the past, the Dick Cheney Republican Party. That's, I do think, the choice that we face in this primary. As I travel the state, I think that many in our base, if not most in our base, are hungry for a leader who puts the interests of our own citizens first. And I think that's something I'm able to do in a way that, frankly, nobody else on that debate stage is really standing for.
So that was just half of our conversation. After the break, we're going to continue it discussing Ukrainian funding